December 1944. The Ardennes forest. Frozen earth. The smell of diesel and death. And in the hands of every American GI, a small cardboard box that most of them would rather throw into the enemy trenches than eat. This is the K-Ration. 3 meals, 9 ounces each, packed in wax-coated cardboard. It kept 16 million American soldiers alive and made every single one of them miserable. But here's the thing. Soldiers hated it so much, they nicknamed it Hitler's secret weapon. Yet without it, D-Day fails. The Pacific Campaign collapses. The war? We might not win it. This is the story of the most hated meal in military history and how it changed warfare forever. To understand the K-Ration, you have to understand the problem it solved. World War I was a logistical nightmare. Armies moved on railroads and horse-drawn wagons. Soldiers ate from mobile field kitchens, big iron cauldrons that cooked stew, beans, and bread. Hot meals, real food. But there was a catch. Those field kitchens couldn't keep up with fast-moving combat. If your unit advanced too quickly or got cut off, you starved. In 1918, American soldiers in the Meuse-Argonne offensive went days without food. Some chewed on raw potatoes. Others ate hardtack biscuits left over from the Civil War. After World War I, the U.S. Army knew the next war would be different. Tanks, airplanes, paratroopers, lightning-fast mechanized infantry. You couldn't bring a field kitchen to a firefight. You needed something portable, shelf-stable, lightweight, and nutritionally complete. Enter Dr. Ancel, a physiologist from the University of Minnesota. In 1941, he was tasked with an impossible mission: create a meal that could fit in a soldier's pocket, last for months in jungle heat or Arctic cold, provide 3,000 calories a day, and not taste like cardboard.
He had 6 months. America was about to enter the war, and 16 million soldiers were about to eat whatever he came up with. What he created would feed more human beings in combat than any meal in history. It would be dropped over Normandy, carried across the Rhine, eaten in foxholes from Guadalcanal to Berlin. And soldiers would hate every single bite. 1941, America isn't at war yet, but everyone knows it's coming. Dr. Ancel understands the stakes. Soldiers in combat burn between 3,500 and 4,500 calories per day. That's more than a lumberjack, more than a marathon runner. If you don't feed them, they collapse. If you feed them poorly, they get sick. If you feed them too much weight, they can't carry their weapons. Keyes starts with the basics. He needs protein, meat or cheese. He needs carbohydrates, crackers or biscuits. He needs fat, chocolate or peanut butter. He needs vitamins, fruit or vegetables. But here's the impossible part. It all has to fit in a box smaller than a hardcover book. It has to survive being dropped from airplanes, submerged in seawater, buried in desert sand, and frozen in alpine snow. And it has to last 6 months without refrigeration. Keyes tests hundreds of combinations. He cooks meat in cans. He dehydrates vegetables. He vacuum seals crackers. He wraps chocolate in foil. And then, Pearl Harbor. December 7, 1941. The Japanese attack Pearl Harbor. America is at war. And suddenly, Keyes' experiment isn't theoretical anymore. Within weeks, the Army approves his design. They call it the K-Ration. The K stands for Keyes.
Each soldier gets 3 units per day: breakfast, dinner, supper. Each unit contains roughly 1,000 calories. Let's open one up. This is the K-Ration Dinner Unit, December 1944, packed in Kalamazoo, Michigan, shipped to Europe, issued to a soldier in the Battle of the Bulge. Inside this 9-ounce box, you'll find a can of processed meat, usually chopped ham and egg. Soldiers called it mystery meat. It tastes like salty library paste, but it's protein, and in a frozen forest, protein keeps you alive. 4 crackers, hard as concrete, made from flour, fat, and salt. You can break a tooth on these, but they're carbohydrates, energy. You eat them because you have to. A packet of powdered beverage, Lemon juice powder, it says. You're supposed to mix it with water, but most soldiers just ate it dry. It tasted like battery acid, but it had vitamin C, and vitamin C prevented scurvy. 5 cigarettes. Lucky Strike, Camel, Chesterfield. The Army included cigarettes in every ration, not for morale, though that helped, but because nicotine suppressed appetite. If you smoked, you needed less food. 2 pieces of chewing gum. Wrigley's Spearmint. Again, not a luxury. Chewing gum kept soldiers awake. It cleaned their teeth when there was no toothpaste, and it kept their mouths from drying out during long marches. A can opener. Tiny, stamped metal. Soldiers called it a P-38. It took 38 punctures to open a can. It weighed almost nothing, and it was brilliant. A book of matches. Waterproof, because even in a monsoon, you needed fire. Toilet paper. 4 sheets. Not enough. Never enough. And finally, a Torrid Zone Milky Way bar. This is the rarest item in the K-Ration. Collectors today will pay over $2,000 for one of these. Why? Because Hershey and Mars had to create chocolate that wouldn't melt in the Pacific heat. Regular chocolate melts at 90 degrees Fahrenheit, but soldiers in the Philippines, New Guinea, and Okinawa faced temperatures over 120 degrees. So Hershey invented Torrid Zone chocolate, a dense, waxy bar that could survive jungle heat. It tasted terrible, like sweetened wax, but it provided instant energy, and in combat, taste didn't matter. This bar, this exact bar, was manufactured in December 1944. It traveled across the Atlantic, it sat in a supply depot in Belgium, and then, during the Battle of the Bulge, it ended up in the pocket of a GI who probably cursed its existence and ate it anyway. The K-Ration wasn't just food, it was a scientific marvel. Think about it. In 1944, there were no preservatives like we have today, no vacuum sealing, no freeze drying, no plastic packaging. So how did they make a meal last 6 months in a cardboard box?
First, they removed water. Bacteria need moisture to grow. No water, no bacteria. That's why the crackers were bone dry. That's why the fruit bar felt like a brick. Second, they used salt and sugar as preservatives. The meat was packed in brine. The chocolate was loaded with sugar. Both create environments where bacteria can't survive. Third, they sealed everything. The cardboard box was coated in wax, inside and out. This made it waterproof. Soldiers could drop it in a river and the contents stayed dry. Finally, metal cans. The meat and cheese came in hermetically sealed cans. No air, no light, no contamination. The result? A meal that could be airdropped into Normandy in June and still be edible in December. But here's the dark side. Making food this durable meant sacrificing flavor, texture, and variety. Every K-Ration tasted the same. Every meal was the same. Soldiers ate 3 K-Rations a day, 7 days a week, for months on end. And that broke them. By mid-1943, reports were flooding back from the front lines. Soldiers weren't just complaining about K-Rations, they were refusing to eat them. The Army's own study showed that after 10 days on K-Rations, soldiers lost weight. After 30 days, they showed signs of malnutrition, even though the calorie count was technically sufficient. Why? Because the human body doesn't just need calories, it needs variety. It needs texture. It needs the psychological comfort of real food. We called it 3 lies in a box. Breakfast, dinner, supper, all tasted the same. After a while, you'd trade a whole case of K-Rations for a single hot potato. Soldiers developed elaborate trading systems. Cigarettes became currency. Chocolate was gold. Some units would pool their rations and try to cook something edible over helmet fires. Others just stopped eating. Medics reported cases of soldiers throwing K-Rations away uneaten, even when starving. The Army panicked. If soldiers wouldn't eat, entire campaigns were at risk. So they tried to fix it. They introduced variety menus, different meat options, different crackers, different desserts. But it didn't matter. A soldier who'd eaten 50 K-Rations couldn't tell the difference between chopped ham and pork loaf. They improved the chocolate. Regular Hershey bars replaced the waxy Torrid Zone bars in temperate climates, but in the Pacific, still waxy. They created supplemental rations,
larger C-rations, and 10-in-1 rations for units behind the lines. But for frontline infantry, paratroopers, and Marines, K-rations were all they got. And then came the worst part. December 1944, the Battle of the Bulge, Hitler's last desperate gamble. American forces, exhausted, outnumbered, surrounded, dug into the Ardennes forest. Temperatures dropped to 0 degrees Fahrenheit, supply lines were cut, and the only food available was K-rations. But here's the problem. K-rations freeze solid at 32 degrees Fahrenheit. The meat turns to ice, the crackers shatter, the chocolate becomes so hard it can chip a tooth. Soldiers tried everything. They tucked cans under their armpits to thaw them with body heat. They smashed frozen chocolate with rifle butts. Some even tried to eat the wax coating, hoping it had calories. By Christmas Day 1944, the 101st Airborne, surrounded at Bastogne, was down to half rations, 1 K-ration per soldier per day, less than 1,000 calories. When the Germans demanded surrender, General McAuliffe replied with one word: nuts. But privately, his men were starving. On December 26th, the weather cleared. American planes dropped supplies, including K-rations, thousands of them, and the soldiers of Bastogne, half dead from cold and hunger, tore into those cardboard boxes like they were Christmas presents.
Because in that moment, a K-ration wasn't a curse. It was survival. It was hope. It was the difference between life and death. If the Ardennes was frozen hell, the Pacific was something worse. In the jungles of New Guinea, Guadalcanal, and the Philippines, K-rations faced their ultimate test. Temperatures over 110 degrees, humidity at 100%. Mold grew on everything. Insects infested everything. Marines reported opening K-rations to find weevils in the crackers, maggots in the meat, and ants swarming the chocolate. But they ate it anyway. Because in the Pacific, hunger wasn't the only threat. Disease was everywhere. Malaria killed more Marines than Japanese bullets. Dysentery turned elite soldiers into walking skeletons. And the only thing keeping them on their feet? K-rations. The Army knew K-rations weren't enough, so they supplemented with C-rations, 10-in-1 rations, and, when possible, fresh food shipped from Australia and New Zealand. But for the men on the front lines, the ones crawling through mud under Japanese machine gun fire, K-rations were all they had. February 1945, Iwo Jima. Marines landed with 3 days of K-rations. The battle lasted 36 days. They ate K-rations in volcanic sand that got into everything. They ate K-rations while artillery shells screamed overhead. They ate K-rations next to dead friends. And when they raised that flag on Mount Suribachi, the first thing they did afterward was crack open a K-ration. I hated K-rations, every damn one. But when I got home and tried to throw away leftover food, I couldn't do it, because I remembered what it was like to be hungry, really hungry. Today, original World War II K-rations are rare. Most were eaten, discarded, or destroyed, but some survived. Military ration collectors, a small, obsessive community, hunt for these relics, and the Holy Grail, a complete, unopened December 1944 dinner unit with a Torrid Zone Milky Way. Why so valuable? Because so few were made. Hershey only produced Torrid Zone bars in 1943 and 1944. By 1945, they'd improved the formula, and the Torrid Zone branding disappeared. So finding one means you found a piece of history, a snapshot of the exact moment when American industry, American science, and American soldiers were all fighting the same war. When I found this unit, December 44, still sealed, I knew what I had. The Torrid Zone bar was the missing piece I'd been looking for 15 years. I've been offered $3,000 for it, but I'll never sell. Because this isn't just chocolate, it's memory. It's proof that someone survived. The war ended in 1945, and almost immediately, the K-ration became obsolete. The Army phased it out. They replaced it with C-rations, then MREs, meals ready to eat, each generation better than the last. Today's soldiers get flameless heaters, gourmet entrees, and even desserts. They don't know what it's like to eat the same 9-ounce box for months on end. But ask any World War II veteran about K-Rations, and you'll see something in their eyes. Not nostalgia, something deeper. I wouldn't feed a K-Ration to my worst enemy, but it kept me alive. And every guy I served with, same story. We hated it, but we owed it everything. The K-Ration wasn't elegant, it wasn't delicious, but it was there. In every theater, in every battle, from Normandy to the Rhine, from Guadalcanal to Okinawa. 16 million soldiers, billions of meals, one cardboard box. And in the end, that's what logistics looks like. Not glory, not heroism, just survival. This box, this exact box, was packed 81 years ago. It crossed an ocean. It survived a war. And now it sits in a collector's archive, a museum, or maybe your hands. Inside is a meal no one wanted to eat, but also a story of 16 million people who did impossible things under impossible conditions. They didn't fight for K-Rations, they fought despite them. And that's the real lesson. War isn't won by the best weapons or the bravest soldiers. It's won by the people who keep going, even when the food tastes like cardboard. Even when there's nothing left, you keep going.